I think animal studies are interesting because there'll always be another headline saying we found this works in mice and it extends lifespan or it does something amazing, and it's very easy to to generate interest within that topic. I'd just be very wary of it because, like I mentioned before, most of the animal studies, they don't translate well to humans, and obviously we're humans, so we should be looking at human trials. Now there's human trials and then there's human trials. So you'll often hear people saying, "Oh, I did a particular workout, or I ate a particular diet, or I'm taking a particular supplement, and I feel wonderful. Therefore, you're probably going to feel wonderful as well."
Right.
And those anecdotal studies, they're not particularly compelling because what works for one person may not work for another, and then the next step up is observational studies. So if you just observe a population and you try and draw conclusions, so maybe one population or one group of the population eats a particular diet and they live longer compared to another group who eat a different diet. And you can say, well, maybe that diet works a bit better, but you have to be careful. It's maybe. The only real way to figure out if something is truly beneficial for human health in general is randomized controlled trials. So this is where you take a group of people, you randomize them into two groups at the same time, you follow them up for a period of time, and you can see whether that intervention is going to make a positive or negative impact on human health.
Do you think that they are focusing too much on animal studies and cell studies? Do you think that there are enough human studies happening?
Yeah, human studies are incredibly expensive to run, so that's why you'll often hear about single cell research or mice research, because they are a lot cheaper, and also the stakes are a bit low. If something goes a bit wonky, do we want more human clinical trials? Absolutely. Do we want more funding? Absolutely. Unfortunately, we don't have infinite money though, so we just need to be quite selective about what molecules we are testing in the limited resources that we have. So say, for example, rapamycin is one of the leading candidates for lifespan extension in the animal studies, but very few human clinical trials have been done on this, and the primary reason for that is there's no money. That rapamycin was discovered in the 1960s, so you can't really patent it. You can't get a return on investment. So I've set up a rapamycin human study that's now thankfully funded, and it's recruiting patients at the moment. But that took me 3.5 years to fund, to fundraise, because again, you have to rely on donations to get it over the road.
That's really exciting that you're doing that study. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so rapamycin in both male and female mice, it extends lifespan by over 20%. But in human clinical medicine, rapamycin's got a bit of a dirty name. So what I mean by that is it's used to suppress the immune system. So say if you needed to have a kidney transplant, one of the medications that you'll be on to prevent your own immune system from rejecting that organ and attacking that donated organ is rapamycin. So it's been quite tricky to convince the medical community that this immunosuppressant can be potentially used to extend lifespan, because whenever you think of suppressing the immune system, you think of increased infections, increased cancer, but it seems that if you get the dose correct, that's a sweet spot.
Are there any other studies that you are interested in aside from rapamycin that you see on the horizon?
Yeah, so there are a few supplements that I'm already taking. So, for example, creatine for its muscle performance effects. But there's some emerging research to suggest that it improves brain performance as well, improves cognition, particularly in older adults. So there was a meta-analysis published, I think it was in 2022. So a meta-analysis is where you combine all of the human randomized clinical trials together and see what they show. And there was a pretty robust effect that people who were taking creatine compared to a placebo or a dummy medication seemed to have improved cognition. So that's a really interesting space. I think there's still some larger longer term randomized trials that need to be done before anything conclusive is said, but that's something really, really promising. It's the same thing for multivitamin and mineral supplements. So there's a study called the Cosmos study, which is a massive study, but within that huge study there were 3 separate trials that were looking also at cognition, and it seems that a well-formulated multivitamin and mineral supplement seemed to improve the cognition of older adults compared to a placebo. Then there's a couple for skin health, so collagen and hyaluronic acid. Again, they've got good evidence from human randomized clinical trials. Things like psyllium husk. Psyllium husk is fantastic for lowering your cholesterol levels, seems to be good for your gut microbiome, and through those effects, there's some good research to suggest that it lowers cardiovascular disease. So there are some things that we could be, potentially taking now that do have real impacts on our health. But in terms of big plays for trying to extend lifespan, rapamycin, that's probably the most exciting that's come from the preclinical world.